What's up, you data-hungry Amazon sellers? This is your host, Tommy Berenger of the Sell, Rank, Win podcast from Merchant Words. And in this podcast, we give you the answers to your most burning questions, actionable insights that you can take away and implement into your business today. So let's go ahead and dive right into today's episode. What do you say? Let's go. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Sell, Rank, Win podcast from Merchant Words. I'm your host, Tommy Berenger, and I'm very excited to have this next guest on with us. He came from building startups in the telecommunications and ad tech space and is now jumping into the Amazon sector. He is the founder of a one-of-a-kind SaaS company in this space. Without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce you to the CEO and founder of Nozzle.ai, Rael Klein. Rael, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm good. Thank you so much for having me, Tommy. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. I just want to thank you so much. I know you're in London. I'm here in LA, and you're coming on at the end of your day. So I just want to thank you for that. I really appreciate you coming on later in the day.
Yeah, no problem. It's a little bit dark outside, but I've been looking forward to this for a while, so it's all good.
Absolutely. Excited. I know we've been going back and forth a bit, even from towards the end of last year, and finally got you on here. So excited out. And I've been looking into Nozzle, and it's very intriguing, very interesting. And I'm not going to lie, I first thought it was just a PPC management software.
Yeah.
At first glance, and I dug into it more, and I was like, "Whoa, this is something I haven't seen before." So, if you could tell us a bit about, start off a bit about your journey, who you are, how you got here, and what led you to creating Nozzle.ai.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for those thinking about where my accent is from, I'm from South Africa. So I grew up in South Africa, the first, 23 odd years of my life in South Africa. My background is actually in finance, so not in, tech or engineering or any of those sort of things. So I worked in a couple sort of quantitative jobs within finance, private equity, investment banking type jobs. And then I came to the UK in 2010 to study finance at Cambridge University. And after that, I decided I don't want to be in finance anymore. So kind of an expensive way to learn that lesson. Studied all the wrong things. But I then went back to South Africa for about 2 years to do a mobile telecommunication startup around sort of messaging and voice and all those sort of things. But my heart was really set on coming back to the UK. So after 2 years, I came, 2013 this is now, came back to the UK and created a company called Media Gamma. So this is the advertising technology company called Media Gamma. This was very, very sort of engineering and machine learning focused. We were a spin out of a computer science department of University College London, UCL, and they had focused on really how to write custom algorithms for online advertising. So what happens when you arrive on a website typically is there's a real-time auction to show an ad to somebody. So in 100 milliseconds, there's an auction, somebody wins the auction, and an ad is shown to someone. And we would be behind the scenes doing, how much should I bid in this auction? Or if you're on the other side, if you're sort of the seller or the publisher side, what's the max I can charge for this ad slot sort of stuff. So quite niche, to be honest.
It's almost, really, it's almost like the stock market, but you're doing it in the ad space.
So that's the whole thing, right? Like my background is in finance. And when I came across what's called programmatic advertising, computer algorithms are buying and selling stuff in real time. I was like, well, financial markets have been doing this for 20, 30 years, right? Like there's got to be some stuff we could do to make a big impact here. And we landed up applying a lot of these financial sort of techniques in this markets, in this programmatic advertising market. So I don't want to go into too much detail on all that. Long story short, I sold that business, about three years ago, to a long-time New York-based customer of ours. And then what was really interesting is when thinking about, okay, what next to do, when I think about that Media Gamma experience and I really think about what worked or who were our best types of, let's say, customers, it was those customers that were always focused on kind of the end-to-end journey of an individual, right? So somebody views an ad, you get them to interact with the ad, you get them to download the app, for instance, in that case. But then you're measuring what happens afterwards. You're measuring what happens after 1 day, 10 days, 30 days, 6 months, right? And so you get to this idea of what's ultimately a customer lifetime value or a profit per customer. And then you're weighing that up versus the advertising, budget and effort that you put in to acquire that person. So that kind of quantitative approach was really, really interesting, and they were very successful. And we would help them on that particular use case. So when it's come to think about what I next want to do, applying that principle to another area was really, really appealing. I'd seen it work, and then you kind of quickly land upon Amazon for a number of reasons, right? Amazon itself, of course, is just growing and growing. I mean, the ad in revenue now is beyond 20 billion or whatever it is. It's just growing really, really fast. But very importantly, it's got both sides of their transaction, right? You've got the advertising side of things, and then you've got what happens afterwards. You've got that order data of what happens afterwards. And Amazon has got the APIs. So as a technology provider, you can actually get hold of that data at scale. And you can start stringing together the story of what happens to these customers. How are they acquired? And after they buy something from you, what happens? Do they ever come back and buy again, for instance? And so that's really what Nozzle is about. And I guess in one sentence, it's a tool that helps Amazon sellers understand their customers on Amazon.
Awesome. So I love how what you did before kind of spawned something into what you're doing now with Nozzle.
Yeah.
And then just to understand a little bit about Nozzle, when did you know you achieved product market fit with Nozzle? Like, how did you find that?
Yeah, that's a really good question, right? So, it's product market fit is one of those things you can ask 5-10 people for a definition and you'll get 5 to 10 different answers, right? Product market for us, it's sort of, some of it's quantitative, some of it is qualitative. So on the quantitative side, like what numbers are you looking for that could kind of achieve this? It's ultimately, for me, it's if I had to honestly just pick one thing, it's hard to just distill it down to one, but it's probably about a retention rate. Somebody, tries your product, they like your product, and they stick around for a very long time. So how long we retain our customers, or put the other way, how often does somebody leave us, is probably the best signal that you're creating ongoing value that people are prepared to pay for. And for me, that's probably one of the best definitions of product market fit. The other side of the equation, is this a big enough market to serve? How many customers are potentially out there? How do you acquire those customers? How do you do that efficiently? Those are all separate questions. But if you had to boil it down to like a metric, and as I say, you'll ask 10 people and get 10 different answers, I would probably say something around a retention rate as being the most important thing.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. I just like to dig into the business just a bit too, because it's very intriguing to me as well. So, yeah. Okay. Very cool. Now, looking at the software, like I said, it was very interesting to me. And now, if you could tell our listeners here, how as Amazon sellers, and I'm an Amazon seller myself, and how can we understand our customer better?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess just taking a step back and doing a bit of scene setting, then the current environment for Amazon sellers, and even for the foreseeable future, frankly, is just getting much, much tougher to be successful, right? You've got a bunch of factors that are specifically to do with Amazon, and then you've got a bunch of, let's say, macro factors, which supply chain issues and inflation and all these sort of things that are happening. But in the specific Amazon world, you've obviously got aggregators coming in that are very buying, let's say, one of your competitors, and then now you're thinking, gosh, how do I compete against that? You've got CPCs that are rising, and it's just becoming a lot more difficult to be successful. And so for us, the fundamental thing really is you've got to think about building a brand and not just sort of selling a collection of products, right? And so Amazon itself has been leaning in somewhat to this. And so there's, some data that's been slowly released over the last, let's say, 6 to 12 months that give you more information about, at a brand level, how you're doing. But really, the most fundamental thing about a brand is its customers, and specifically its loyal customers. Like, how do you measure a brand? And sure, you can, show a logo to someone. Do you, remember or know who this is? That's kind of brand equity. But really, when push comes to shove, what is a brand, right? It's a collection of the customers that interact with it and buy from it and repeatedly buy from it. So we're laser focused on the brand building aspect to be successful, but specifically focusing on your customer behavior. And so we're looking at what happens after that first purchase. So do people buy again? If they buy again, is it the same product over and over, or do they kind of go for variations or just different categories altogether? How long does it take between each purchase, right? Is it 30 days, 60 days, half a year, whatever it may be? Do they buy the same thing? So all these sorts of questions. And then crucially, it's not just like, here's the data, go figure out what to do with it. It's kind of like, well, how do I use this now to be successful? Whether your goal is, to grow market share, whether your goal is profitability, whatever it is, this is just like the foundational building blocks of brand building, and how to pull some, frankly, pretty powerful levers to improve your business. And so we work, primarily the tool as it stands today is for sellers who sell products that lend themselves to some sort of repeat orders, right? Like you've got to have a reason to buy again. And so naturally, if you're anything sort of food and drink related, or pet related, or health and beauty related, all those sort of categories, and there are a bunch of other categories like cleaning, household cleaning stuff and all that. This data, typically in other channels, if you're D2C, Shopify, whatever it is, this data is available, and we see people making good use of this, but it's just some sort of black box in the Amazon world. And so we like to say we bring, I guess, data parity and insight parity to all the other channels with Amazon.
Yeah, because Amazon isn't really surfacing these metrics that you're talking about: customer lifetime value, customer acquisition costs, retention rates, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I love about the software.
Yeah.
And are you using? I'm just kind of curious, like, what's the secret sauce a little bit? If you can dig into that, like, what metrics are you using from Amazon to kind of aggregate these numbers? And are you using new to brand at all? The new to brand metrics, and any other new ones that Amazon's surfacing?
Yeah, ultimately it comes down to, you need some sort of unique identifier for an individual. Like, I have no interest in knowing that it's Tommy, right? I just need to know that it's individual 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And so when individual 1, 2, 3, 4 buys again, or whatever it is, I can say, hey, here's, I can attach that to the history of individual 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're never going to say this is Tommy and, this is Tommy's. That's against, obviously, Amazon's terms of service, right? It's kind of quick way to end it. So you need to be, properly, and we went through an entire sort of vetting process, right, on for this particular use case and how we're doing it. And it's it's a whole nother thing, whole nother podcast, frankly. But so it's nothing personally identifiable, but we're able to say these are the patterns that your most valuable customers take, or your least valuable customers take. And there's some really big insights around, just because, for instance, your main hero product has the most sales volume, it doesn't mean your most valuable customers are buying it, for instance, right? Like all these kind of bigger kind of strategic questions, those are the things we can help with. But yeah, to specifically answer your question, you need some sort of unique identifier, but it's not actually something that's personally identifiable.
Got it. Yeah, because they did take that away. I mean, back in the day, what was that? When I say back in the day, I mean,
right?
Yeah, and then you could download the customer info, and then create lookalike audiences on Facebook and market to them that way.
Totally.
Again, another whole nother podcast on that, right? But that we can't do that anymore, guys. Nope. So don't, if you guys are like, what? How do we do that? No, you can't do it anymore.
You can't do that. And again, that's against terms of service. So.
Yes, it is. Yeah. So, interesting enough, though, one of my customers, I had their phone number. They left their phone number, and I had to reach out to them because there was just an issue with the order. But I got their phone number somehow. But it was shown in my back end. So what, I don't know if that's
fine.
This is
very clear on sort of the use cases. That you can use that sort of data for and all that, right? So, and we, as I said, we went through the whole sort of vetting and all that. So, it allows you to do powerful things. I mean, at the end of the day, Amazon's view of the world, at least to the seller universe, is very product centric. It's ASIN centric, right? So a lot of the data you can get is ASIN level data, which is how many sales did I make, or how many,
They care about your sales velocity because they don't want you storing stuff in their warehouse. And that's why they've, clamp down on the inventory and given all those restrictions also.
Exactly. And, even some people, I guess, are thinking, well, hang on, within brand analytics, they do report on something like a repeat order rate or something like that. But actually, they're kind of two main differences here. The first one is it's a repeat order rate of a particular ASIN or a product. It's not the repeat order rate of a customer. So what happens if that customer buys product A and then goes and buys product B? That's not going to be captured by Amazon's data in brand analytics. And we see that quite a lot, right? The first product you buy is often not the second thing you buy. So, that whole aspect just gets completely missed in the Amazon brand analytics data. And secondly, the new to brand is just a very different definition. And Amazon's pretty inconsistent with how they define new to brand. If you're on Amazon's DSP, for instance, last time I checked, at least, it's a 12-month rolling definition. So if I haven't seen this person in the last 12 months and they go buy something, they're going to be new to brand. But if you look in brand analytics, it's defined, I believe, on a quarterly basis, right? So if I haven't seen someone in the last 120 days and they buy on, let's say, the 121st day, they're going to be new to brand. And that's not good because a lot of products are bought more than 120 days apart, right? And so they're going to be counted as new to brand both times, which is incorrect. And so, so once we just sort of ignore all of that and we just say, it's kind of a strict definition of new to brand. We say, have we seen this person before? If not, they're new to brand.
Got it. Yeah. You just surface all the good stuff for them and get rid of the nonsense pretty much.
Yeah.
So now with all the data that Nozzle shows to its users, how can an Amazon seller like myself, an Amazon brand like myself, how can they take action on those data points in order to push their brand to the next level?
Yeah. So that for me would probably start with discussing 2 to 3 different metrics. So the first one you mentioned a bit earlier is this idea of customer lifetime value, or put another way, profit per customer. So this is a pretty standard metric.
I think I like profit per customer.
I know, right? It's funny because in the early days, we definitely were all like customer lifetime value and all that. And then we kind of realized it doesn't do a good job of like actually describing what, like, intuitively, it's not really clear.
Being transparent, right? Transparent is like, how much money am I making
exactly
with this guy, Tommy Berenger? How much money is Tommy Berenger putting in my pocket?
How much is he worth to me? 100%, right? So like,
exactly.
So we're actually in the process of like changing a lot of our language to be profit per customer. But it's precisely that. Like the average customer, how much are they actually worth to me over their entire lifetime with me? So just to give a quick example, you come in January and you buy something, and the profit, not the revenue, right? Not the sales, the actual profit I make, I'm making up numbers, is $10. Then you go and buy 3 more times in that year for the same, let's call it, to simplify, the same thing. So you've bought 4 times and each time the profit is $10. And so I make $40 a year from Tommy. As I said, we're never going to say it's Tommy. We're going to say customer ABC, right? But that information is so foundational to your business because it helps you answer a whole bunch of things. And probably the most important one is the other side of what we like to say, the other side of the equation, which is how much can I actually afford to pay to acquire a customer, right? And if I know that my profit over 12 months is $40, it means I can spend up to $40 to acquire a customer, knowing that I'll break even after 12 months. And so that really has so many implications for how you want to go about customer acquisition via Amazon PPC or the DSP or driving external traffic, whatever it may be. But it gives you this idea of, it's basically reworking a break-even ACOS or break-even ROAS, right? A much better version of that.
Now, Rail, I love this because now you can zero in and drill down, get super granular on your customer A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right? And so on. And now you can say, okay, well, I know if I spend $40 in PPC money here, I'm going to make $120 back. So that's fine. Totally. I'll do this all day. Totally. I'm going to increase my budget. I'm going to increase my budget. I'm going to increase my bids. So now, how do we know specifically where to increase those ads and where to, because I know you guys do ad management on there as well. So my question is now, how do we, dig in there, find the right places to place those ads on that customer that is going to give me $5 for every dollar I put in.
Yeah, so I'll tell you our process on executing it. I mean, the vast majority of people we do ads for will also be using this tool, right? So we're kind of specialists in sort of eating our own dog food, as it were, on how to implement all these things. But it's, as I say, it's absolutely loads of people. I mean, most of the people, frankly, we're not running the ads for. They're kind of doing it themselves. But how to use this data, it really depends on your goals. So, for instance, I'll give you two cases. The process we work through is to say, okay, let's have a look and sort our ASINs by the total the amount of sales or the percentage of sales that are coming from repeat orders. So on one extreme, we've honestly, and I'm not making up numbers in this case. On one extreme, we've had a customer that 80% of all their sales were from repeat orders. I mean, that's just like remarkable, right?
Wow.
And it's remarkable on the one hand, because I didn't really have to spend anything on advertising.
I mean, that must have been a hell of a product.
It's a pet, yeah. It's a pet food, I believe.
There you go.
Yeah,
pet,
exactly.
Oh, there you go. Yep.
So really, they don't have to work hard to acquire to make money, right? It's just like printing money, basically. But you can equally argue it's a very big missed opportunity, because actually, if you if you put a lot of effort into your PPC or DSP, you should be totally new to brand focused, right? Because you just know the product is so strong and the customer retention rates are so strong that it's just really, really going to pay off. And so the strategy there is you don't want to go for branded terms. You want to be looking, even if CPCs are actually pretty high, you can actually.
So don't go for branded terms. Why not go for branded terms? Because those are usually the ACOS, and those are usually
but you're not worried about it in this case, right? Like, you want to optimize for new to brand, and so
right. Okay.
So new to brand, you don't want to be showing ads to people who are searching for your brand, really.
Okay, see what you're saying now. Okay, go continue. Go for it.
Yeah, no worries. So you could go after some pretty expensive terms, but get a lot of volume, and you can afford to do it, right? Because you've done this calculation. Like, I can spend $50 acquiring someone and break even after 12 months, sort of thing. So you've got really good solid data behind you to say, A, I need to be new to brand focused, just because so much of my sales are coming from repeats. B, I can afford to be pretty aggressive here, because I'm paying next to nothing to acquire someone. And that's one of the other metrics we do, is this idea of customer acquisition cost, right? How much am I paying to acquire a new to brand customer? And if that gap is large, that means there's a big opportunity. So, for instance, if I over 12 months, my profit per customer is $40, but I'm actually paying $5 to acquire a new to brand customer, that $35 gap is huge. And if I compare that to, let's say, another product where the gap is much less, right, 5 or 10 or whatever it is, well, I could obviously still spend on that other product, but that just means the opportunity is a lot bigger on the bigger the gap is, right? So we're always ranking your ASINs by the gap between the profit per customer and how much you're spending to acquire a new to brand customer. And the ones with the bigger gap, we would look into first to see, hey, is there a bigger opportunity to be more aggressive, to get market share, go after those like high volume, expensive, non-branded terms, to drive all of that. Does that make sense?
Yes, it definitely makes sense. This is fantastic. So I think I need to try out and actually put your software to real work on one of my Amazon accounts, because basically what this is sounding like is I don't even need to have a PPC management software. I can have Nozzle, and correct me if I'm wrong. I can have Nozzle basically run my PPC, do bid management and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
Adding negatives, moving broad to exact, all that fun stuff.
Yeah,
and then also I have a partner within Nozzle that can help me with, hey, you know what, this customer right here and all this little cohort here, we need to double down on the bids for this, because this is going to help your brand grow this way. So it seems like a no-brainer to me to throw out any other PPC management software and just go with Nozzle. And guys, Nozzle is not just a PPC management software. It is it's like on steroids from what I'm seeing here.
I mean, they're separate things, right? Like you can, on your own, you can just sign up to Nozzle, get all the data. If you're confident on, hopefully the product's tells you what to do and all those sort of things. But if you sort of self-serve in that way, yeah, I mean, by all means, the majority of our customers, that's how they operate. For those that also want the bid management piece and tying it sort of together, we would offer that as well. But yeah, I mean, our product starts at $77 a month, and you can just sort of go in and get that sort of crucial data and go with it. But I mean, just reach out to me as well, right? Like I love talking about all this stuff. So even I'm very happy to do all that. So yeah, so that for me is one of the most one of the core use cases of why this data is just so valuable. It basically means you're playing a different game to your competitors. Like those competitors that are not doing these sort of calculations can really fall behind in a rising CPC environment, right? They're going to pull back from certain search terms, and we're making the opposite recommendation. We're saying you need to double down on these search terms because we've got the data to say, hey, you're going to make your money back in 3 months, or you're going to make your monay back in 6 months, or whatever you choose to do.
And it's more of a proactive approach, it looks like. Yeah. And with other software, it's like you're doing it from the outside in, and this way you're doing it from the inside out, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we're focused. I guess the big differentiation for us was always focusing on your own data sets, right? As a seller, there's loads of excellent tools in the market around, what the competitors are doing and what the market is doing and all that sort of stuff. But we're like, hey, no one's focusing on like actually what your own customers are doing, and that's really the core of your business, frankly. So let's really zero in on what they're doing and how we can make a big difference there. One of the other big things, it's kind of related, I guess, to this idea of profit per customer, but it's ultimately a customer retention rate, right? If I have 1,000 people buy the customer from me, how many and 200 people go buy it twice, my customer retention rate is 20%, right? And thinking about that customer retention rate can actually make a huge, huge difference. And so one of the stats, actually, I'm going to save it for the end, I think. But one of the, getting people to buy a second time is massively impactful to your business, because the chances of them buying a third time, if they've bought a second time, double, right? So I said a customer retention rate of 20% from the first to the second purchase. From the second to the third, it roughly doubles, i.e. 40%. And so do what you can to get that second purchase, because the chances of somebody buying 3 times double. And what that means for profits is, we actually ran all the numbers on this, is a 7x multiplier, meaning a 1% increase in retention rate. So if you go from 15 to 16% on that first to the second purchase, you can increase your profits by 7% in the next 12 months. And so wow. It's a huge multiplier on your business that is just completely overlooked, right? I mean, people, intuitively know, yeah, sure, I should try to get people to buy twice, and I can try to do these certain things, and we can talk about sort of tactics to do that. But now we're actually quantifying what that means and how impactful that is. So yeah, a lot of our strategies, we just gave the use case of focusing on new to brand. But a lot of our use case as well, if you want to actually increase the lifetime value, if you think it's got a lot more potential, how do I increase that over time? Well, you got to, get a better retention rate. And so from the first to the second purchase is a big part of what we do as well.
Well, Rail, so really quick before we wrap this up, and we like to keep our podcast short, sweet, and informative. And this last piece here, I want you to tell us, say you go over the shoulder look, just one thing you do like for the first maybe 2 to 3 minutes after you would log into your Nozzle AI account. Yeah. What do you do to look briefly? What metrics, what key metrics, some KPIs that you look at to say, oh, this is doing good. Oh, I need to do this. And if you could just kind of walk us through that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it really comes down to those 2 use cases. So if I'm interested in increasing new to brand because I have a really, really good retention rate already, I'm logging in and seeing what is the movement in my new to brand in the last week, in the last month, right? And then related to that is the customer acquisition cost. Am I hitting, am I above or below my target of how much the max I can afford to acquire a new to brand customer? So that's definitely the first thing I would look at if I am very new to brand focused, market share focused, all that sort of stuff. If I'm very profitability focused and I want to maximize my actual profit per customer, then I'm looking at basically retention rates. And am I moving the needle on retention rates? And you can do that via sponsored display ads. You can do that via Amazon's DSP. And you can do that via, let's say, terms of service compliant, obviously sort of inserts and stuff in your packaging to really move the needle on retention rate. So I'm logging in to see what's happened to the retention rate and what is the growth in the repeat buyer customer base.
Okay, so for example, like someone who doesn't have any idea on how to run sponsored ads in Amazon ads, like what one metric that I look at when I go into my PPC campaigns is the clicks. I'll sort by clicks, and if I have a keyword that has given me 15 clicks without a sale, I will either immediately pause that keyword or I will immediately lower the bid to like maybe 3 cents, 4 cents, 5 cents. But now if I didn't know that, if I didn't have that information in my head, I would go there and be like, oh man, I don't know what the first thing to do here is. Now, if I go into nozzle.ai, is there some learning I need to do going in with these metrics and understand like, okay, what's the benchmark for this here, for this metric here? Is there a certain area that this metric needs to be in, does Nozzle AI do that for me? And does it tell me that?
Yeah. So we're not really going to put at the moment, we're not reporting on sort of the advertising metrics, although that is on our roadmap for later in the year.
Well, I didn't mean like just specifically advertising metrics. I was just using that as an example. I apologize. I just meant for like anything, like you were just saying, like how of course, your software best. You go in, you look at the new to brand metrics,
exactly,
and then you kind of you sort by customer acquisition costs and so forth. So like, do you have tutorial videos in there just kind of show best practices and things like that?
Yeah, so we're very aware that this is a very different way of looking at Amazon, right? And so expecting somebody to just sort of come in and sort of shift, there's an education piece to be done there, right? Like, and it's for us to do. So yes, there's a whole bunch of, whether as part of the onboarding, videos that I've done, I've recorded myself explaining what this means and how to set your targets. And a very common question we get is, okay, my customer retention rate is 20%. Is that good? Is that bad? Right? Like, how do I compare to others in my category? And so we will give you, a rating on how you're doing and ways to improve that. So absolutely, we will guide you on how to firstly, like almost a bit of an audit, like your retention rate or your lifetime value is above or below average, or you're amazing, or whatever it may be. Then we would say, okay, what are you focused on? Are you focused on sales volume and market share, or are you focused on profitability? And then, what is the target setting off the back of that, so that when you log in every day, you're always going to be aligned to how am I doing against that target? So that's kind of the process.
Fantastic. So at the end of every podcast, we like to give our listeners, or have our guests give our listeners, a piece of advice that they can take away from this podcast and implement it immediately into their life or into their business. You're a very successful man, so please let us know something here.
Sure. I can do maybe one of each. So the first one is, in your Amazon business, if you think your product lends itself to repeat orders, I'm not even saying, there's nothing to do with Nozzle even. The biggest impact we've seen, honestly, is getting people to buy twice. And so really put some of your ad spend into sponsored display or inserts or whatever it is to get people to buy twice. It fundamentally changes the profitability and the growth of your business to do that. So if there's one specific thing I would say to change your Amazon business, go and do that. In life, in general, I would say maybe, well, this is more company building, maybe not life in general, more about company building, is we tend to, as founders, listen to experts more. I wouldn't say maybe more than customers, but place a lot of weighting, I guess, on experts. But there's really no substitute for what your customers are telling you. And so I've learned that the hard way, I guess, in previous businesses where you're speaking to people who've been in the industry for a very long time, saying particular things, but then actually, really it's the customers that. And it's not necessarily what customers say, it's what customers do, right? Because those things can be very different. So focusing on what customers do is probably the strongest signal you'll have what to do with your business, as opposed to, what experts say.
Absolutely. And, I've learned that along the way, being a product manager here at Merchant Words as well. You totally have to listen to your customer.
Yeah.
As soon as customer feedback comes in, I look at it and see if there's something we need to iterate on immediately in Merchant Words. How many customers have given us this feedback, how many times, and kind of prioritize that feedback.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because, like, for this product, I mean, I guess it's kind of new, and there's nothing really, at least for the Amazon world, that's out there like that. So we get really enthusiastic type customers where, I mean, they would even volunteer and say, hey, if you want, to just test new stuff and run things by me, just call me up and we can schedule 30 minutes or something. So we've been really lucky to, not have to work that hard to get all that.
Absolutely. Rail, now, where can people find you? How can they contact you?
Yeah, so email, I guess, and LinkedIn are the two best ways. So LinkedIn is just Rael Klein, RaelCline, Rael Klein. And then my email address is rael.klein@nozzle.ai. Yeah, I mean, contact me about anything. Happy to answer questions on use cases, data, anything, and anything in between.
What if I wanted to build a startup in telecommunications? Can I contact
yeah, there you go. Can do that as well.
Well, fantastic. Rael, I just want to say again, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate your time, taking the time out of your day to come on, and especially that it's laid out there in London on a Friday at that.
No
so
worries.
Go ahead. If you drink beer, go ahead and have a beer and relax after this podcast. Or if you're a workaholic like me, go ahead and continue working, right?
Yeah, I can do both at the same time, I think.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much for having me, Tommy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I just got to say sorry to Jeff Bezos. We ran out of time. We cannot have you on this episode, but we will try to get you on the next one. Until next time, guys, stay awesome and be awesome. All right. Thank you guys so much for listening. And if you got any value out of this podcast at all, please let us know at the place that you listen to it at, whether it be iTunes, Stitcher, whatever it is. Give us some love, give us an awesome review, and let us know maybe some things you want us to talk about on the next podcast. Until next time, guys, stay awesome and be awesome.